Greetings once again, this is Peter, aka Tulf42, and welcome to yet another Doctor Who review for the Chris Chibnall era. This time I'm reviewing the new TARDIS console room. Sorry if this review is a bit out of date as it is 2020, but since I'm joining in with the fanbase and rewatching episodes of Modern Doctor Who on Twitter, I felt the motivation to finish making this review. I'm also glad to have waited until after Series 12, because now we've seen this TARDIS in action for 2 seasons, meaning we've seen plenty of different camera angles showing every possible feature to date that this console room has to offer. On a final note for the new TARDIS exterior, despite waiting until episode 2 to see it, I enjoyed the entrance of the TARDIS as the ghost monument appearing on the top of the hill. Somewhat making a connection to the Series 11 poster. It is a trivial note, but I always like seeing this idea used in TV shows, films and other media, where what you see on a poster is literally what happens in the finished product. So without further ado, let's get started. So firstly, I love how we all got to see the new console room with the Doctor, Ryan, Yaz and Graham. That really felt like a moment to connect the audience with the characters. As we start from the police box doors, gradually making your way to the console area to the opposite side of the room. You get to take in the new designs at a nice slow pace. The whole choreography makes a good rivalry to when we saw the first Stephen Moffat TARDIS back in the 11th hour. I was also shocked the Doctor actually liked the redecorating. Please tell me I'm not the only fan who reacted by the line, "You've redecorated, I really like it." As soon as you see past the main entrance doors, I'll admit I felt a little gullible, and here's why. Since Doctor Who came back in 2005, the TARDIS console room has always passed the 2 front doors of the police box, meaning when you look at production photos, pictures of the TARDIS console room were used on 3 sides of the inside of the actual police box. Now, in the new TARDIS, the whole police box area acts as a front porch leading to the console room, meaning that if you're looking at photos of the TARDIS in production, it isn't a filming mistake if you can see the side windows from the inside of the police box, as it is also part of the interior set. It's only if you can see the back end of the inside of the police box in production that you'd be able to actually see the console room. Hopefully this is making sense. I also thought of a small connection to a deleted scene from the Series 5 episode The Beast Below, where Amy Pond asks the Doctor where the windows on the other sides of the police box go to. Well, now we know where the windows are on 3 of the 4 sides of the TARDIS. It's just the windows on the back side of the police box that will remain a mystery where they actually appear in the TARDIS. The new roundums around the edge of the console room, or the round things as it's been called in the show, were another cool surprise. The iconic pattern of hexagons with a cutout circle are even bigger than the previous models of the TARDIS, and also have an overlap of other circles behind it. It took me by surprise they made the roundums bigger, and I think the idea works as an evolution from sizes in previous console rooms. I even like the additional hexagon windows around the back end of the room for that extra thing to look at during scenes in the TARDIS. When I saw the new TV screen for the TARDIS, I thought this was one of the trivial things that hasn't changed for the better. The TV monitors have always been relative to the time the show was made, whether it was an old TV monitor from the 60s, a square TV, a computer monitor, or a flat screen TV, it just worked. The fact that we just see a projection on an object or on the wall wasn't really interesting at all. However, I can make a compromise that at least there is a cool hologram projector, as we saw in the episode Spyfall Part 2, when we see a hologram of the Master. This was a good addition to go along with the previous holograms seen in the modern era of Doctor Who's TARDISes. The flooring is more basic this time. Since the show came back in 2005, we've had floors of metal fencing with a bit of room below, a glass floor with upper and lower levels, flooring which I think is metal, and an even larger room as a whole. Now, the TARDIS has a single solid floor again, with hexagonal lights glowing from underneath, and a small step up to the console area. I think this was a wise choice because it does help simplify the show's theme of the spaceship which is bigger on the inside for the next generation of fans, before we possibly get a future console room with multiple levels again. In Series 12, extra space was added at the back of the room. I liked this addition because it made me feel relaxed, knowing I didn't always have to be next to the console if I was chilling out in the room or where all the action was. I suppose it's like when you're making a daily commute somewhere on public transportation like a bus or a train. You can sit in different areas of the vehicle and get a different perspective of the same journey. Now for the main attraction, the console and the central column. When I saw the console itself, I felt a similar vibe to the console we had in the Russell T Davies TARDIS, as it uses a coloured light to make the console panels glow, and the types of objects used to make the controls had a steampunk theme to it. However, looking at photos up close, there was a lot of metal piping used in the new TARDIS over the panels, which does help give the idea of the TARDIS being a relic-like machine. But what broke the mold from the recent trend is the central column. Recent versions of the TARDIS always had the column connecting the console to the ceiling. Now we've taken a page out of the book of classic Doctor Who and made the column separate again, and appearing as a giant yellow crystal moving up and down when the TARDIS is in flight. The mini-model TARDIS was another good piece of trivial cleverness, as it gives the idea that if the chameleon circuit was working properly, you could actually see what the TARDIS exterior would blend into to suit the surrounding environment outside. I can also see this as a cool toy that fans would appreciate as a nightlight for those who don't do well sleeping in the dark, with an extra setting for the TARDIS to spin or stay stationary. I like some of the retro features such as the microphone and the giant egg timer, and even a foot pedal, as well as the classic gauges with the pressure dials, and the new handbrake which was given a nice crunch sound effect when taking off. But of course, nothing was more iconic about this new TARDIS than the biscuit dispenser. As a biscuitaholic, I absolutely approve of this cute gimmick. Although the dispenser is shaped for the size of a custard cream, I reckon you could get other biscuits in the mix like bourbons, nice or malted milk, and then have a little tea party, which has happened before if you've seen BBC's Children in Need in 2010. The pillars around the console area are a change too, going from the stone pillars we had in the Russell T Davies TARDIS to the metal ones in the Stephen Moffat TARDIS, and now we have ones that are shaped like large crystals, possibly made of plastic. What I like about them is 1, they are lit up so the room's lighting doesn't all directly come from the console and central column, but rather the entire console area of the room. And 2, I noticed the top tips of the pillars move up and down when the TARDIS is in flight along with the central column. It's a hard gimmick to notice at times, but when you do see it, it gives a bit more life to the room. Okay, it's time to talk about the colours and lighting. Ever since the classic days of whites and greys, we've had quite a few other colour schemes for the TARDIS, from brown to dark lighting to yellow with a green glowing console, or recently green or cyan, or red and dark colours. This time we have the colours of an orange glowing console with blue walls, which makes a cool change. And in Series 12, we had a scene or two where the lighting had all changed to blue, even the console itself was blue. So I give a thumbs up for variation of setting different moods while aboard the TARDIS. Just like when we had the Russell T Davies TARDIS go from yellow to red a few times. It's just nice once in a while to see the colours change the mood of the scene. However, the problem I have with this console room is the same issue I had with the last one. The lighting is still a bit too dark. I know the console being brighter than the rest of the room shows it is the heart and soul of the TARDIS, but I still think I'd like to see not only more of the wall colour, but also the actors when they're not stood next to the console, as there are plenty of scenes and camera shots showing how dark it is when you're not near all the action of the console itself. I have to close the curtains when watching Doctor Who in the daytime these days, because it can be difficult to watch TV shows and films with scenes set in a darker environment on my flat screen TV. I relate to the 6th Doctor Colin Baker as he pointed out this flaw in the 50th anniversary sketch The Five-ish Doctors Reboot, when the classic Doctors visited the current TARDIS set and were shocked by all the features the current TARDIS had that weren't there in the 1980s. The final things I want to mention about the new TARDIS are the additional items that are commonly seen, but somehow I missed them. Please correct me if the following items are actually in the TARDIS. Firstly, the actual telephone that's on the inside of the police box door. An argument could be made that the phone is actually the retro microphone at the console, but it just isn't a phone box without a phone at the doors for public use. Next, I couldn't find a coat hanger or rails. From hats, scarves and coats, there's usually somewhere for the Doctor to hang clothing so he or she aren't wearing it all the time in the TARDIS. And finally, I don't even think I saw a chair near the console. Although Series 12 introduced the sitting area at the back of the room, I'd still like to see an actual chair in the room too. And just like the different television monitors over the years, I'd like to know what styled chair would be appropriate for the TARDIS of this day and age of the late 2010s and 2020s. Ultimately, I approve of this new TARDIS console room. If the Doctor Who experience ever comes back and they organise a TARDIS tour, I will happily buy tickets to see the set. Just as I've given the previous console rooms catchy names to remember them by, I'd like to call this one the Chibnall Chrystal Cave TARDIS. It's catchy and easy to remember which particular console room I'm talking about when I'm in conversation with other fans. If I had to tweak the design in any way, it would be getting an actual TV monitor, a chair, coat hanger and rails, and making the room a bit brighter. If the Russell T Davies TARDIS console room can get the lighting balance right by Series 3, we could potentially find the right lighting balance for Series 13, especially after seeing photos of the Chibnall TARDIS more lit up. After all, Doctor Who is a family-friendly show, doesn't mean to say dark is the new way of going forward. Well, thank you very much for listening to my review, I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think of the new TARDIS console room in the comments below, I'd love to discuss. Please subscribe, check out some more of my videos, and take care staying safe during these difficult times of the pandemic. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in my next video.